Sealand, or as it's officially known, the Principality of Sealand. Well, it's actually a former British naval platform in the North Sea. It's about 10 clicks off England. Now, back in 1967, Britain abandoned the structure. No war meant no more lookout was needed. So here was the steel platform on top of concrete towers sticking out of the water. Enter Paddy Roy Bates, a former British Army major and a pirate radio broadcaster. So he and a friend planned on creating a health farm on the rig for burnt-out entertainers. I think that's called rehab. But I digress. The two men had a bit of a falling out, and there was a gunfight. Yes, an actual gunfight. And Bates won. Sealand was settled, and its founder proclaimed it a state, issued passports and a currency known as the Sealand dollar. They've even named themselves as hereditary royal rulers. Now, over the years, courts have ruled that Sealand remains under British jurisdiction, but other courts have ruled Sealand is outside British rule. So Prince Roy is technically head of state, along with his wife, Princess Joan.
Sealand is here to stay.
But due to illness, his son, Prince Michael, is the de facto leader. So there you go, a little bit of history on Sealand. It's a place that has certainly gone through an awful lot of stuff. I think they even have a soccer team. We'll get into that. Let's go right now, if we can, to London. We actually have the de facto leader, the Prince Michael of Sealand, Michael Bates. How are you today, sir?
I'm fine, thank you, George.
So I'm sure you can imagine that when we introduced this idea to our audience, they went, what? There's a what? There's a country, there's a fortress island. Tell people about Sealand. I understand it's for sale, so give us the sales pitch. Describe Sealand.
The sales pitch. Well, I don't know whether it's quite for sale or for assignment to another party, because it's very difficult to, or impossible to sell sovereignty. But I suppose the sales pitch is it's two concrete towers with a steel platform on the top, and in each concrete tower there's 8 rooms. And starting at the bottom there's a magazine, a wartime magazine, that where the ammunition was kept for the fortress. And moving up from there, the next room, there's a chapel and some storage space. And then the rooms above that are mostly accommodation and storage. The top 2 floors in the concrete towers are generator rooms. And then on the platform on the top, there's the normal household type accommodation, bathrooms and kitchens and living rooms and just stuff you'd have in a normal house, except you have a helipad on the top, and there used to be 3.7 anti-aircraft guns on the top, but they've gone now. And what else?
Well, why are the guns gone?
Generated.
You would think that in times of war right now, with all we're facing, you'd want some security.
Well, I don't. They were kind of in the way, and I think a little bit over the top. I don't really think many guns these days.
Hey, man, I mean, you're right. You can't actually sell sovereign states, so there'd have to be some sort of transfer. But you are looking to unload it, right? And so, how much? Like, I know that you want to get a nice place in downtown Victoria or downtown Toronto or Montreal. You're going to pay a certain amount of money, and location, location, location. So, what are you asking for to have this fortress island?
Well, most places in the Western world with a sea view do get a fairly good price, don't they? And the neighbours are very quiet and quite distant, and there's the biggest swimming pool in the world, I suppose, outside your door. But the price given by the Spanish estate agents who came up with the idea in the first place is, I believe, 750 million euros. Now, quite how you price something like Sealand, I don't know, because there's no comparison. So quite how they came up with it, I don't know.
Well, it's interesting, you know, you've got all this water there, it's a military structure, it's got a lot of history, and I wonder who would buy something like this? Because as I take a look at the pictures of it, right, it's not like you have a lot of trees, I'm sure there's no oil there, so in terms of the buyer, it's a specific kind of person. Who are you, how do you go about marketing this to somebody?
Well, I wouldn't like to say like a Blofeld type person out of a Bond film with, you know, like with a dodgy suit on stroking a white cat, but because I think that would go against the grain. I mean, it's got to be whatever it's used for in the future. It's got to be something that's you know, not contrary to international law. Because we've always done the right thing over the years, you know, with anything we've done. We've done things and been involved in things that are perhaps difficult in one jurisdiction but not in another, but we would never ever go against the international community. So, I don't know, I mean, possibly somebody that doesn't want to be looked over, have his have somebody looking over his shoulder all the time, you know, when he's with his financial dealings, or maybe some wealthy Russian that doesn't want a radioactive isotope dropped in his cornflakes when he's not looking.
Well, or I heard about the Pirate Bay, like a file-sharing company that was taking a look at Sealand and the idea that you can circumvent a lot of international copyright laws if you set up shop in your own fortress island.
In fact, I mean, yes, that could and would work, but it wouldn't do for us. I mean, it's not, you know, it's theft of proprietary right. I mean, it doesn't suit us at all. And in fact, I mean, I've written a book, which I haven't got a publisher yet, but we're making a Hollywood movie, or Hollywood's making a movie, you know, and I mean, it goes right against the grain to go to the file sharing thing. It's not, you know, I mean, people make a living out of making movies, and then people steal, and I personally don't see that as the right way, you know, for people to be anyway.
You know, Hollywood needs a good conflict and needs a good ending, and I wonder, has anybody ever tried to invade Sealand?
Oh, crikey, yeah. I mean, back in the 1960s, there were 7 different attempts by rival pirate radio factions to take it over. I mean, I was only 14 years old at the time, and there was all sorts of things going on, petrol bombs being thrown about and all sorts of things. And that went on for, I suppose, a couple of years. And then in 1978, there was a group of Dutch and German businessmen that actually did take it over for a couple of days by force. I mean, in this modern day, we'd call them terrorists. In those days, I don't know what we called them. Nobody really bothered that much.
We call them pirates, man. That was exciting. Well, okay, wait, they took it over, like, and I mean this in a sincere way, if you are a micronation or a fortress island, how do you defend yourself? Do you have a deal with the British government? Do they come in and support you? Do the British government know you're there? Do they like you?
Obviously, the British government know we're there. I mean, I think when my father first came up with the idea in 1966, that the British government thought we might turn the new Cuba off the east coast of England. I think they probably looked into it then and realised that he was a war veteran, had been wounded 5 or 6 times serving king and country during the Second World War, and you know, and in fact a great patriot. He just had a different idea about things.
And so they decided to just, you know, let him have this place. You were 14 when this happened, man. What kind of, you know, what's childhood like on Fortress Island, on Sealand?
Well, I suppose it's difficult to relate to. My father was reasonably Victorian, I suppose, and I mean, I was 14 at the time, and I suppose I was brought up in the way that he thought prior to that, and it really came to me as expected to you know, get involved with what he was doing. I was away at boarding school in North Wales, which is like a cold and unpleasant place to be, living in a dormitory in his old building, and I came home on my holidays one day, and I was given the opportunity to have a bit of adventure in the North Sea, and I mean, what kid wouldn't do that as opposed to some cruddy boarding school?
No kidding. Hey, I hear you have a soccer team named after Sealand. Is that true?
Yeah, that's right, yes. They're Finnish guys, yeah.
Very cool. Hey, man, Prince, thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you can't seem to get a buyer in that price range, you want to drop it a little bit, you come let me know, all right?
You're on.
Right on. Prince Michael, good to have him. Sealand, if you do know people who have the money, or as he alluded to, if you're a bit of a Dr. Evil out there, and you may have $750 million, give him a call, and we'll take care of you. Love you.